There is a deal that Black Americans have been offered since the very founding of this country. The deal is simple. Fight for us, and we will treat you like one of us. It has been offered in every single war this nation has ever fought. The Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and now Iran. Every time, Black men and women answered the call. They bled on battlefields from Yorktown to Normandy to Baghdad. They earned medals. They saved platoons. They carried this country's flag into places most Americans could not point to on a map. And every single time they came home to the same thing. Broken promises, burning crosses, locked doors, and a nation that suddenly could not remember their names. Right now, as American soldiers are fighting and dying in the Middle East, I need you to understand this history. Because if you do not know the pattern, you cannot see what is coming next. Subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that bell, because this is the kind of history they will never put in a textbook, and you need to hear every word of it. The Revolutionary War, the first broken promise. It starts at the very beginning, 1775. America is fighting for its independence from Britain, and the colonies have a problem. They do not have enough soldiers, so they turn to Black men, enslaved and free, and the offer is made for the first time. Fight for our freedom, and you will get yours. Roughly 5,000 Black men served in the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. They fought at Bunker Hill. They crossed the Delaware with Washington. They endured the brutal winter at Valley Forge alongside every other soldier. A man named Salem Poor fought so valiantly at Bunker Hill that 14 officers signed a petition recommending him for honors, calling him a brave and gallant soldier. And when the war ended, when America won its independence, the enslaved soldiers were returned to their owners. The promises of freedom were quietly withdrawn. The new Constitution, that document declaring all men are created equal, counted Black people as 3/5 of a human being, not for their benefit, but so that slaveholders in the South could gain more seats in Congress. That was the first deal, and the first betrayal, but it would not be the last. The Civil War. Bleed for your freedom, then beg for it. When the Civil War broke out in 1861, Black men were initially told they were not welcome to fight. It was a white man's war, they said. But as the Union started losing ground, that attitude changed fast. Nearly 180,000 Black men enlisted in the United States Colored Troops. They fought in over 400 engagements. 40,000 of them died. The 54th Massachusetts Infantry, one of the first Black regiments, led the assault on Fort Wagner in South Carolina. They charged directly into cannon fire, knowing most of them would not survive, and most of them did not. Black soldiers were paid less than white soldiers. They received inferior weapons and equipment. They were assigned the most dangerous missions. And if they were captured by Confederate forces, they were not treated as prisoners of war. They were executed on the spot, or worse, sold back into slavery. And when the war ended, when the Union won, and slavery was officially abolished, Black veterans came home to a brief window of hope called Reconstruction. Some held political office, some bought land, some built communities from nothing, and then America pulled the rug out. Federal troops were withdrawn from the South. The Ku Klux Klan rose up and began a campaign of terror that lasted decades. Jim Crow laws locked Black people into a system that was slavery in everything but name. The men who bled to save the Union watched their freedom get legislated away piece by piece. World War I, democracy abroad, lynching at home. In 1917, America entered the First World War, and once again, Black men were called to serve. More than 350,000 Black soldiers served in World War I. They were told this was a war for democracy, a war to make the world safe for freedom. The great Black intellectual W.E.B. Du Bois even urged Black Americans to close ranks with white Americans and support the war effort, believing that patriotic service would finally earn full citizenship. But even in uniform, the racism followed them across the ocean. The United States military was fully segregated. Black soldiers were largely relegated to labor battalions, digging trenches, hauling supplies, and burying the dead. When black combat units were finally deployed, the United States military did not want them fighting alongside white American troops, so they were assigned to the French army instead. Something remarkable happened. The French treated them as equals. The 369th Infantry Regiment, the Harlem Hellfighters, fought in the trenches for 191 consecutive days, longer than any other American unit. They never lost a foot of ground. They never had a man captured. France awarded them the Croix de Guerre, one of the highest military honors in the French military. America gave them nothing. When black veterans returned home in 1919, they came back to what history calls the Red Summer. White mobs attacked black communities in over 25 cities across the country. Black veterans, some still in uniform, were beaten, shot, and lynched. In some cases, the uniform itself made them a target because a black man who had fought for his country, who had proven his courage and his worth on the battlefield, was the most dangerous thing white supremacy could imagine. If this is hitting you, hit that like button right now and drop a comment because I need to know if they taught you any of this in school. I already know the answer. World War II, the war that changed everything, except America. Over 1 million black Americans served in World War II. 1 million. They fought fascism in Europe and imperialism in the Pacific. They served in every branch. And they did it while being segregated, humiliated, and denied basic dignity by their own military. Black soldiers trained at bases in the American South where German prisoners of war were treated better than they were. That's not an exaggeration. There are documented cases of German prisoners of war being allowed to eat in restaurants where black American soldiers in uniform were turned away. The enemy got a seat at the table. The men fighting for this country had to eat outside. The Tuskegee Airmen, the legendary black fighter pilots, flew over 15,000 combat sorties. They earned over 150 distinguished flying crosses. They protected Allied bombers so effectively that they became one of the most requested escort groups in the entire theater. The 761st Tank Battalion, the Black Panthers, fought across France, Belgium, and Germany. General Patton himself said they had come to meet the expectations of every man's heart and soul. And when these heroes came home, the GI Bill, the single greatest wealth-building program in American history, was systematically denied to black veterans. White veterans used it to buy homes in the suburbs, attend college for free, and build the middle class that would define the next 50 years of American prosperity. Black veterans were rejected by banks, denied admission to universities, and blocked from buying homes in white neighborhoods by redlining. The same program that created white generational wealth was used to deepen black generational poverty. 1 million black men and women served. They defeated Hitler, and they came home to Jim Crow. Vietnam, the war that broke the deal. By Vietnam, the pattern was undeniable. When the draft began, black men were called up at disproportionate rates. In the early years of the war, black soldiers, who made up roughly 11% of the population, accounted for nearly a quarter of combat deaths. They were placed on the front lines more often, assigned to the most dangerous infantry units, and they died at rates that no statistical model could explain away as coincidence. Muhammad Ali saw it clearly. When he was drafted in 1967, he refused to go. He told the world he had no quarrel with the Vietnamese people. He asked why he should travel thousands of miles to drop bombs on brown people while the people terrorizing his community were right here in America. They stripped him of his heavyweight title. They banned him from boxing for 3 years. They tried to send him to prison for 5 years. And history proved him right on every count. Dr. King saw it too. In April 1967, exactly 1 year before his assassination, he gave a speech called Beyond Vietnam at Riverside Church in New York City. He called the United States the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. He connected the war budget directly to the abandonment of anti-poverty programs at home. He said America was sending black men thousands of miles away to guarantee liberties in Southeast Asia that they had not found in Southwest Georgia or East Harlem. That speech cost him allies. It cost him media support. and many believe it contributed to the forces that took his life. Black soldiers came home from Vietnam to no parades, no GI Bill windfall, no suburban homes. They came home to heroin epidemics that flooded their communities, to PTSD with no treatment, to a VA system that treated them as afterthoughts, to an economy that had no jobs waiting for them, and to a nation that wanted to forget the war ever happened and the men who fought in it. Iraq, Afghanistan, and now, Iran. In 2003, America invaded Iraq. Black soldiers were there from day one. In Afghanistan, black soldiers served 20-year deployments in mountains and deserts halfway around the world, and the pattern held. They came home to a country in economic collapse. The 2008 financial crisis hit black communities harder than anyone. Black homeownership, already lagging behind, plummeted. Black wealth was cut nearly in half. The communities these soldiers left behind were worse off than when they shipped out. And the $2 trillion spent on Iraq? That money came from somewhere. It came from schools, from infrastructure, from healthcare, from every domestic investment that could have lifted black communities out of the cycle they'd been trapped in for generations. And now we're watching it again. In real time. American soldiers are right now stationed across the Middle East. Iran is firing missiles at US bases. 3 soldiers are already dead. The war is expanding. The budget is ballooning. And the same communities that have given more than their share to every war in American history are once again being asked to sacrifice. Meanwhile, back home, what's waiting for them? Education budgets being slashed, social programs being defunded, affirmative action struck down, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs dismantled. The very systems that were supposed to begin addressing centuries of inequality are being torn apart while the war machine gets fed. 250 years, the same deal, the same betrayal. The only thing that changes is the name of the country they send us to die in. Let me leave you with something that I need you to carry with you. Every war America has ever fought was built on the backs of black soldiers who were promised that their sacrifice would be the thing that finally opened the door. If they just bled enough, fought hard enough, died bravely enough, this country would see them as equal. And every single time when the fighting stopped and the flags came down, the door was slammed shut. From the Revolutionary War to Iran, the only thing that has remained constant is the courage of black soldiers and the dishonesty of the nation they served. 5,000 in the Revolution, 180,000 in the Civil War, 350,000 in World War I, 1 million in World War II, hundreds of thousands more in Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and now a new generation stationed in the Middle East, facing missiles from a war they had no say in starting. They deserve better. They have always deserved better. And the very least we can do is make sure their story is told. Share this video, send it to everyone you know, because they will not teach this in schools. They will not say it on the news. And if we do not tell this story ourselves, nobody will. Subscribe, hit the like, drop a comment and tell me, which war's betrayal hit you the hardest? I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.